Vidyut, welcome to India today. It's lovely to have you here. And like I mentioned, this is one of those rare occasions that we get to spend some time with you, chat with you, pick on your mind. There is so much that we see of you on social media and your space, and the sincerity, the dedication, the honesty in everything that you do comes across and resonates with each and every one of us. I would say it personally because there's a part of it that has touched me. Before we get into the film and the mind-blowing trailer and the response to Sanak, I want to sort of take you back in time a bit, your childhood. And it's something that I've always been really curious of. An actor who's so dedicated personally. The whole world talks about your physical, the way that you groom yourself and all of that. But how was your childhood like? Were you always so passionate, dedicated about training, about working out, about your physical aspect and all of it?
Start with the fact that last evening I had some time on me, and my childhood best friend had flown down from Hyderabad to meet somebody here. So we ended up spending about 4 or 5 hours together, and we were chatting about my life and him. We both were like classmates since very early in life, and one thing we both had in common was that we would really like do crazy things, as in we would take chances. If somebody said you should not be example, if you should not sell clothes at a Levi's store, you will never become successful. Like you will just be a salesman. We both had applied for a job. Uh, we both used to do everything that was asked not to do. And the change that has happened between him and I is that I still do everything that people think should not be tried or something. And because he went into the corporate world, he stopped taking those chances. And last night we realized this. So I think the only thing that hasn't changed in me, and that's what I think changes with all the people over the years, is I don't stop doing things that I used to do earlier. Uh, for example, like I meet so many people in my life, and they all tell me that, Vidyut, I used to do martial arts. When I was 10 years old, every human being I think has done something in combat sport, because our parents are amazing in India. They make you do something or the other. But then they quit after 2 years or 3 years, or life gets so busy, they get to school or they get to college, and you know how it is. So I think the only thing that I can tell you when I look back is I did not stop doing anything. I did not stop believing in anything I did at that time. And I continue doing it. So I think that's the only way that I have figured it out.
That's an interesting perspective. Like if you say that you've really not stopped doing anything that you would as a child, and you've sort of continued that streak of consciousness, even today in your work, it reflects so much. But if I speak about, say, sports, or if I speak about influences while growing up, if I speak about martial art films that you watched maybe as a child, did those influence you at that point in time? Did you ever look at, say, like a Jackie Chan film or like a Bruce Lee film and say, wow, like maybe one day I'll be that guy doing that stuff?
No, I didn't think like that. The thought did not come to me like that. But every time I watched something and that looked impossible, I wanted to know the secret behind it. Like I wanted to like dwell into it. I'm talking about action pieces. Like Jackie Chan is phenomenal. Van Damme. A lot of these action stars, when I watched them and I used to see, because everybody comes with a different ability. Like Van Damme had this alacrity in his body, which nobody else did. But Jackie Chan had a few abilities which nobody else did. So I used to try to imbibe everything that I could. Hence, I am a good mix of everything, from being big to being, yeah. So I think everybody has
Yeah,
inspired me in a very different way. You
right.
cannot be inspired by one human being. I don't think to be inspired by one particular human being all your life is good enough, because you could take the best of that person, but you have so much that you can gain. I think you need hundreds of inspirations. I
No,
get
well
very
said.
inspired by nowadays by these people I watch on YouTube, and I'm like, oh my God, how did he do this? I see these Red Bull teams, these amazing people, and they inspire me. They really inspire me.
Right. So how was reaction from the family? Because clearly, protective moms and protective people in the family, oh, he's going to break his arm, he's going to break his head. How did you deal with all of that? Clearly.
Just the same way, after a certain age, you have to deal with the fact that you haven't got married till now. You should have kids right now. So you deal with it.
That
You
has
tell them,
changed.
wait a while. Like you have to convince your family that I love doing this. Wait, let me do this. I'll be safe. I promise you. So it's the same thing. Families are amazing. Families are amazing. They are more convinced about you than you are about yourself. That's for sure. It's just that they try to keep you so safe that these things come across as you shouldn't be doing it. So family's been amazing. It's not only my family. I watch so many people living in Bombay. And I admire the families, especially the mothers. They're always pushing the boys or the girls to be the better version of themselves. So I think families are great support system.
Right. And the one thing that stands out, right, when we come to watch a film of yours is that there is this notion that you go all the way out. Like there is no in between when it comes to you, whether it's choreographing a scene or even if it's doing an intense emotional scene. You always go all out in making that character your own. I want to talk to you a little bit about what goes through your mind when you're jumping off a 12-story building or like you're going underwater. I'm guessing as a normal person, as any human being, right, there would be that 3 seconds of thought that goes to your mind saying, would this be my last shot ever? Could just this be the thing that takes my life? Does that ever cross your mind, the fear?
So, you mentioned a word like common person or just like anybody else. So when I'm on the cliff or on the edge of the building and I have to jump from here to here, I'm exactly that common person that who I really am in real life. Because when I reach there and I know there's a lot of trepidation that whether I can jump from here to here at the right precision with the right timing. Sometimes when you don't jump the right distance, you fall short and you hit your head on it. Sometimes you overshoot. Sometimes you just on action, you just stop and your body's just not responding. It happens to me all the time, every time. But there's a moment when I'm there and I've calculated all the risks that can go wrong. I believe in the stoicism, the stoic philosophy a lot because it says that you think about all the negative things that can happen to you, all. So I have like crazy thoughts in my head that I might bang my head, I might hit my shin on it, I might just break my wrist. All these thoughts go through me. And in what a span of about 5 to 7 seconds, I'm already there and I'm like, I have to do it. I have to do it. I know I can do it. And then that moment happens where these thoughts are just not there anymore. And there's a clarity of I'm going to do it. Whether I can or not, I'll get to know when I get there. But I'm very sure I can do it. And then I take the leap and I just go across. And I think I've been experiencing life exactly like that. There's so much fear all the time, whether this movie will work or not. It's been happening all the time. I don't know any human being who can be saying that, oh, who could say that, oh. So there's these fears and then you deal with them one-on-one and yeah, you surpass it.
That's an interesting point you mentioned because if I open your IMDb page and I look at your filmography and the choices that you made from the beginning till now, the point of, when you came out, there was this immense curiosity, good looking guy, looks fit, does action, looks nice on the big screen. The girls look really good opposite him, can do a lot. And when a film doesn't work, right, you obviously take a step back and you think and question your choices and ask yourself, did I do the right thing? Maybe my next should be different. In your case, if you can just walk me through what is your process of dealing with failure and how do you navigate through that journey and come where you are today? Like, where have you reached this place?
So, I started doing these very small roles in the south of India. And I used to model as we met before. And modeling is a great experience. It's a great teacher because it teaches you so much about how to be, how to like wear the right clothes, almost look presentable. Then as models, everybody was doing something big and I was the only one who had no work. So I realized that we need to start somewhere. And I started doing work down south, small roles. But like you said, I gave it all that I had. All. I did not care about anything, whether it'll get edited or it will not. And once you give it all, because if you give everything that you have, you can never be just average because our bodies and our minds have abilities that nobody else knows. Only we do. So sometimes we don't give our best, but sometimes if you give it your all, it can never go wrong. It can just never go wrong. So about failures, if after you think you've given it your all and you failed, I promise you've not given it your all. You are convincing yourself that this is my best. No, it's not your best. You can still do more. So I think that's how I've seen my journey, and yeah.
And you've somehow also been very insulated from the tamasha and the noise that surrounds a box office, a Bollywood film release. There are trade dates, and then there is kiski film kiske saath aa rahi hai. There are the clashes, and you have to socialize and hobnob with the important people to get the right films. You have sort of managed to do your own work in your own quiet place. I want to understand your mindset. Is that a conscious decision, or you've just been like that? Like, is that been your take on the way the work things are?
I like his questions. He thinks you have to find your tribe. And if you can't find your tribe, you have to start your own tribe. When I came to Bombay, there were certain names that you had to work with because if you don't work with them, you'll never be a star. They are the star makers. And for me to get accessibility to them was not an easy job at all. Because if you showed them the most difficult stunt that was possible live, they would say, but we can do this with cables. I've gone through this experience. So I realized that I don't need to look for who people think are the best. I need to look for people who believe that I am the best. So I started looking for those people, hence the tribe. And I think when you find your own tribe, then you don't need to push or promote anything. I have my own tribe called the Jamwalians. I trust them. The number could be 100 only, but they all love me to death. So when you have people like that, and I tell this with great belief that even if you have that one person in this world, that one person, it could be your mother, your wife, your sister, who believes 100% in you, there's nobody who can stop you. But you need to find that one person. And if you have more, then you do not worry about release dates and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, there's a lot of blah 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 involved in the in the daily life of a Bollywood star, and you sort of managed to stay away from that. Kudos to it. It's not very easy because there's a lot of noise. Do you have anybody in the industry that you sort of is your sounding board? Is not necessarily a mentor, but maybe like you just connect with as a friend or as a peer or as anybody you look up to?
I could think of a few names, like 4 or 5 of them right away, but they all have different values in my life. Like they know different aspects of cinema. So if I need to have an opinion on action, I would call up somebody who genuinely has an eye for action. So I have a few friends who I genuinely do, but now it's my family that is the Jamwalians. If they tell me that they didn't like something, then I have to really think about it. They're great critics. I like listening to them. Then I have my own team uh, who I love to argue and debate with, because it's quite cool to everything they say you should oppose, because then you get to see a perspective that you've never seen. I enjoy that journey. I enjoy people. I enjoy having conversations with them. So yeah, lots of
Right.
people. They might not be very famous that everybody would know, but they're very famous in my head and in my life.
Did you ever face a roadblock where that notion of, oh, he's an action star, he can't do an emotional scene? Oh, he's very good at jumping from a building but not chasing a girl around a tree. Oh, he's very good at death-defying stunts. But even in the reviews, that scene where he's crying for the mother who's passed away, or the scene where he's breaking up with his girlfriend, अरे वो emotion नहीं है. Has that ever been? I mean, there is a stereotype and a stigma associated with John faced it all his life at the beginning of his career because he was sort of the first one to come in to get into that space. Have you ever sort of thought of this and ever faced this
So,
during narrations?
like you had mentioned, John was the only model who really made it in our times. He was senior to us, but in that period of time, I did not really think about it, but there was this whole thing that, models can't act. Uh, there was an idea that people had. So for me to not think about it and just keep going on and on, but Khuda Hafiz did change my life towards how people see me. I can cry. I do really feel emotional. If you really are a strong person, man, woman, child, you have a tendency to express all your emotions. And if you can express them in real life, you can express them on cinema. So Khuda Hafiz did that for me. It just opened me up as a performer. There was a director who believed in the fact that uh, because he's a friend of mine too. He's seen me through a lot of motions in life. So yeah, there were these roadblocks, like you said, but the roadblocks were in people's head, not in mine. They thought I could not do it. It was in their heads. It was not in mine.
Right. Yeah, Khuda Hafiz, you're right. You rightly said that. It was probably perhaps the first time that even when people wrote about you in the reviews or you were written in that space, there was so much attention to the acting part of it and in the scenes and all of it. So that's great. And I'm sure we'll get to see more of that. I also want to quickly touch upon this conversation of action in Bollywood is getting so much of limelight thanks to Tiger, thanks to a lot of these actors right now who are actually going and making mainstream action films.
What are the
Studios,
actors? Just mention
yeah,
one name.
yes, there are a lot of them, I'm saying. I
Like
mean,
Wall.
um, I can actually think of only you and Tiger right now. If you ask about the action space, and Tiger also is doing a lot of romantic films and he's doing a lot of rom-com space. I think you're the only lead star who's actually leading the action pack. I mean, in the 90s we had Akshay, but then Akshay is obviously in a very different space. All these seniors are now in a very different space when it comes to choices of films. I think if I had to put my head and take names, I literally can think of you as a one-man army who's headlining action films, and then Tiger to a certain bit. Because again, if you look at Ranveer or if you look at, say, Vicky, they're not really doing action films. They're doing more films where characters are seen in action scenes, or they're not the driving force of that film. I don't know if I'm digressing from my question, but I wanted to ask you, do you feel that Bollywood looks at action in a different format as a genre? Like in Hollywood, there is so much attention paid to action films, and there is Michael Bay and these huge production houses which put so much money into every small thing. Do you feel that action gets lesser importance as a genre in Bollywood?
Action is the number one genre in India. You can't deny it. It's the number one genre in the world. Action never goes wrong. We have a few action actors. Apart from Tiger, we've got Ranveer Singh also. I genuinely think that he has that ability in his body to do it. You know, the Bollywood is quite limited. I talk about India as a country, as a whole, because people watch my action down south also. People watch my action in all the regional cinemas. So it's not Bollywood. They love watching it. And there is a lot of fan following and admiration for great action stars. I'm one of the lucky ones. So it's not true. It's not really true. I don't think we have the action directors to make action films.
Right.
Like the inability is not only in the actors, it's in the directors. We don't have boys who've grown up understanding the action cinema. Like I'm very happy that this generation is watching John Wick and the directors are getting turned on by, oh, let's make a John Wick kind of film. You know what I'm saying? So that's a cool thing. So I would say no, Bollywood doesn't deny action. It's just that we don't have capable directors to make action films. Like I worked with Aditya Dutt on Commando 3. He's phenomenal. He likes to think action. Then I've worked with Kanish Verma. Like I said, you find your own tribe. He likes to think action. But there are people who just...
Right. And Sanak clearly is not into people who are just like Sanak. Definitely looks like it's just gone all out. So how much has Vidyut pushed himself in Sanak? Like in every film, you are going that one level ahead and one level ahead. We've seen the trailer and we just got a hint of what to expect. The trailer obviously doesn't do full justice to what the film will be on the bigger screen and when it hits the OTT space. What can we expect from Sanak? How have you pushed yourself in this?
The pressure of representing India is very high on me because if you go on the reviews today on YouTube and you'll see mostly international, the best of the action critics review my films as a genuine action star. There's a lot of pressure. So for me, it's not about performing only in the Indian firmament. It is about representing India because I know everybody's watching it. So there's no pressure, but there's a lot of investment of ideas and time that goes in. And I do not deny myself of that. I do not care if something is amiss. I need to invest time. So when you see these things, like when you watch the Sanak trailer, like that, I've done a stunt on a ball. So we created this thing that if like I go to a gym and I see people trying different things, why not try it in real life? So creating these ideas, thinking of them, a lot of effort goes in. I love to do it though.
Yeah, I think that's the first time I've seen a gym ball in an action scene. I mean, we see everybody struggle doing those crunches on it. And here you are like, just, okay, let's just sort of fight somebody on that.
No, so, when we were designing this whole thing in the hospital, so, we have this physiotherapy room. So I went into the room and I checked everything out. I'm like, you can't do much apart from throwing dumbbells at each other. Then I found the ball. I was sitting on the ball for about a good 1.5 hours. I had my coffee, I had something to eat. And I was like, let's try something with the ball. So we started playing and then we started inventing things. So that's how normally choreography is done when you see a different kind of a choreography.